Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tim, and welcome to Tim Talks, the show that's only partially a show, but really is just an excuse for me to talk to some of my very talented friends. And I have another one here with me today. He is a writer, director, editor, and many other unsundry functions over at Rooster Teeth. Joshua Flanagan. How you doing, man?
Hi, I'm good. Sweaty, but good.
Sweaty on a Sunday? How dare you?
I know. In Texas, of all places.
So, for those who might not have heard of you, let's get this out of the way early. Give us your CV, your kind of Reader's Digest version of what you do over at the company.
So I work in live action, mostly as a writer, but I do direct some and also edit a little. So yeah, mostly write though, and on writing the longer form narrative projects. So stuff like iBlade, Day 5, and Lazer Team.
Nice, nice. Oh man, I bet you're real excited for the time coming up then shortly.
Yes, it's about to be a huge grind.
It is weird how bittersweet that is. You're like, oh my god, I'm so excited for how much work is coming up. I just said that out loud.
Yeah. I may have very little, to be honest. I still don't know exactly what my role is going to be in production on Lazer Team. So I may not.
I think that segues nicely. I think you mentioned that in the game time you did with Burnie,
yes.
Where most people can kind of go and learn a little bit about your backstory.
Yes.
I don't want to repeat things that have already been said somewhere better, somewhere else. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit down there while we talk about it for just a second.
Okay.
But go watch that instead, because that gives you a much broader depth of where you started in the company, your military service after before that, and just a nice history.
Yes.
I enjoyed it.
Good. I enjoyed playing a video game and talking, so it was good.
Did Burnie just approach you and be like, hey, you want to do a thing?
Yeah, which is usually how stuff happens. But that one specifically was, I think, that was an IndieGoGo reward thing. He said if he hit a certain level, he would do game times with people that were working on Lazer Team. So I think I just happened to be the first, because I know you wanted to talk about military.
Oh god,
stuff.
they added so much work for themselves because of that IndieGoGo. There's the RT shorts as well, and then Strangerhood season 2.
I don't know.
I cannot believe that that's actually legitimately a thing.
Yeah.
It was just a crappy subversive joke for, I don't know, what, a year and a half, 2 years?
Yeah, and
Give or take?
It was fun. We were talking about it the other day, actually, in the office, and seeing if it would be, if anyone wanted to do it, like between me and Chris and Aaron and whatnot. And Chris was telling us how tough, I guess, the first season was of it, because the way the Sims works, you can't direct it. So basically, they would create little closets and put whatever character, they'd make multiples of the same character, and then they would like abuse one of them and make one of them happy and whatever. So whatever the scene was, they'd release that one from the closet.
And would just have them in whatever cloning vat area that they need. Oh my god.
Mood avatars.
Like, here's the thing. That is either incredibly brilliant or incredibly dark, depending on the context that that's in. I mean, who thinks of stuff like that outside of the people that get hired at that company? Because, I mean, look at Ryan. You know, any one of the Let's Plays that you see, he's kind of a mad genius. That's kind of his thing. And it's amazing to see the absolute brilliance that can come out of really something so dark if you think about what you're actually having to do.
Yes. I also think that, I mean, that also speaks to kind of Rooster Teeth's ingenuity when it comes to machinima. I mean, the way they were able to, even just the first season of Red versus Blue, and how they used, you know, like one of the characters as a camera. I mean, like there's a brilliancy and a lunacy to that.
One of the characters stacked on top of one of the characters stacked on top of another character.
Yeah,
to be a camera.
Yeah.
You gotta love it, though. I mean, those are the things that you have to do when you're in production and you need to get things done. Going back to, like, iBlade, which we worked on a couple weeks ago, right before RTX, that was an incredible experience. But there were a bunch of times where we had to improvise.
Yes.
As far as, like, the actual technical making of the thing.
Yes, and sometimes we didn't really know what we wanted until we got to the scene either. And there were things that were written, and then when we kind of got there, we're like, oh, I don't know if we can actually do this. What would be just as good or better?
Now, the question about the writing process itself, because you do a lot of that now, whereas you did a lot of editing starting out, and a lot of, you're kind of shifting in the directing direction.
So
directing
at the
direction? Sure,
company, yes. In my own career, I never really edited, and to be honest, I don't really think I'm that good of an editor. I think
Right.
technically there's a lot of people who are better, and then I know a handful of people in LA who are just phenomenal editors. Like you hand them something and they have the instinct for it, they've worked their craft, and you give them the footage and they come back with something it's better than what you thought. You know, it's like
Yeah.
they just find these new ways to look at it. What I can do, and I think the reason I was able to get on Gauntlet and I felt good about the stuff I added to Gauntlet was that some of the storytelling tropes of writing carry over to editing.
Right.
And so a lot of like it's just that you get the footage first, so it's not starting from nothing. You just start with this pile of information and you decide, what is the story and what's the best way to tell it.
You find the statue inside of the marble.
Yeah.
As it were. And that does take a very special kind of vision and very special kind of skill. But my question was, when you're actually going through and writing stuff,
yes,
do you just write whatever sounds the best for the story, and then when you're kind of in the trenches, figure out what works from what you've written? Or do you kind of write with directing in mind? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah. Well, so before I ever wanted to be a writer, I wanted to be a director. So when I would do films in college until near the end, I actually had a couple other guys that would write the stuff, and then I would direct it and kind of tweak it. So for me, something I personally think I'm okay at is visual storytelling. And so when I write very visually, not convoluted or not dense, but just with the visuals in mind. So it's like I don't write camera movements, all that stuff, but it's still like you can kind of tell the way it goes.
The way you see it in your head, as far as like the word movie,
Yeah.
when people talk about painting a word picture, that's what you translate to the page.
Yeah. And so I think very visually when I write, and
yeah.
I forgot what your initial question was, but somehow that was an answer.
No, it was. Then once you kind of already consider those things, making the technical adjustments once you're actually on set is much easier because you've thought about it beforehand and haven't said, oh, we're going to have a fiery, glowing sword of boobs.
Yeah.
Or something completely insane like that could never be done. But sounds cool.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
I want a fiery boob sword.
I think we have that in iBlade. It's going to be an Easter egg. Look for it. When I haven't directed in a while. I haven't directed in about 4 years. I did a short with Chris, actually, where he was starring, called Moustachio, which I can send you the link for. And it's fun. I'm proud of it. But so coming back into directing, I'm a huge fan of storyboarding.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people aren't. A lot of people like to shot list, and that's fine. But it's not as good. But it's
it's not as specific.
Yeah, there's a thing about the shots, and typically it's something when you sit down, you work with the director of photography through, and you say, how are we going to present this story visually? How are we going to how are the shots going to move the story along instead of just cover two actors in a space?
Right.
So with iBlade, we did a lot of that, and we started I drew a bunch for the initial thing, and then Chris and I, once we got to set, and this is where you're talking about, you kind of get to set and you have to improvise a little bit. You get to set and you realize the sets aren't going to allow for some of the things you've both written and storyboarded. So now you have to make completely new shots or new adjustments, and I feel like that always makes it better, because then where it should.
Usually, yes, because then once you're in the moment, you have so much collaboration that those are the moments that become not yours and thus better.
Yeah.
I agree. No, it's really neat the way that always happens. And especially when you just surround yourself with people who are more talented than you are. I've always felt like if I'm the most talented person in a group, I'm in the wrong group.
Yeah.
Because there are people who are much better at communicating the various ideas that you need to communicate around set. Telling the lighting guy to be able to position this particular light in one direction so that you have the shadow that you have up here.
Yeah.
Is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
period. And you have to do that for every single department. Yeah. As the director, yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Yeah. Oh, I think
so. You co-directed that with Chris, yes?
Yes. Yeah, co-directed with Chris. And we did. It was a lot of stuff like that on set. Where I mean, you were there, so we had some great. Sorry, it skipped out a minute. But so we had some great people like Marcus, who's the production designer.
Marcus LaPorte, yes.
And he, he's like a magician, and you ask for something, and sometimes you have a base idea, like I need to have a guy, catching a sword midair or something. How do we do that? How do we have the sword land properly in his hand and be able to rack the camera at the exact same time? Like what's the off-screen magic that makes that happen?
For those who were at RTX, there were a couple of posters for both Day 5 and iBlade hanging up, and there was a suit of armor. He made that suit of armor.
Yes.
I mean, this is a guy who's able to take the most mundane of items in little plastic wares and make them look amazing on camera.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing. When you look at them up close, you realize exactly what they are, and you're like, oh, okay, I got you, right. But when you see them on camera, you're like, wow, that looks like that. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I had that, we had that, the swords were at RTX also. So some of the eye blades were there. And,
right.
Like that was the biggest thing, especially seeing them early. And you're like, oh, I don't know. Like you see them when he's still, works in progress. You're like, I think these are going to look awful. Like, what is this? And, you have these like internal doubts. And it's like, I know you're great, but I'm a little scared. And then you see it at the end, it's just like, oh, you were right. I'm the idiot. Like you absolutely knew what you were doing.
And that's just a little bit of faith.
Yeah.
And a little bit of knowing that there are people, you've surrounded yourself with the right people, and that you can trust their decisions so that you can go and focus on the thing that's important, which is what's going on right in front of the camera.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a hard place to get to, too. It's hard to find. I mean, over the years, not just Rooster Teeth, but individual productions and as well. It's hard to vet people and find a crew that you can really put faith in. I think with iBlade that worked out really well, but there could, there was plenty of wild cards that it could have gone wrong.
Which is another question that I wanted to ask. What, in your experience now, is kind of your methods for dealing with people that are Rooster Teeth people versus dealing with people that aren't Rooster Teeth people who are kind of union people versus dealing with like someone who's never worked on a set before, like some of the extras who've come in? What kind of methods do you use when you approach those different people?
The people who've not worked on a Rooster Teeth set before?
Just all three of those groups.
Okay, sorry, it cut out a little bit. So it was the people who are from Rooster Teeth.
Yeah, so the people, your friends, when you're having to order around your friends on set. Okay. And then when you're having to order around people who are used to being in the business, but not Rooster Teeth people.
Uh-huh.
And then you have a whole other group of people who've never been on set at all before, ever.
Yeah.
So that takes three different skill sets as a director to kind of manage all three of those groups of people. How does that work in your head?
I mean, I think this goes back to the first rule of being a bouncer from the film Roadhouse, which is be nice. And so I think that's the nice thing about being a director is that you don't have to be the dick. Like there are other people who can do that for you. And so I just, nice to everybody, whether it's the actors or the extras or crew, and unless it's someone who's, like Chris and I co-directed, so we're going to go at each other no matter what. And that'll, and that's a collaborative thing.
Yeah.
And a level of, Chris and I's working relationship is nice because there's a level of candor there where, and then this happened a lot on Lazer team, so we'd be writing, especially in the final days, and we'd look at this joke. We'd write two versions of the same scene, and he'd be like, I don't think your joke is funny. And I'd be like, I don't think your joke is funny. So it'd be like, what joke can we fix?
What? Yeah.
Like, it's obviously, you can get to the standstill where, like, both people don't like the other person's thing, so you have to scrap everything and find something that you're both going to like. So you have people like that on set that you trust to be able to kind of, to be more real with, and
I had a theater instructor back in undergrad who we had a directing course, and of course you have to kind of go through and direct a one-act play by the end of the show for that course. And so I came to him just so bummed. I was like, all the people who are on my crew are just dicks, and they're not doing anything that I say, and they're arguing back with me and blah, 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 blah. And he said, listen, stone doesn't sharpen knife without a little bit of friction. Sometimes you just have to deal with the fight, have it out, and fix it in the aftermath once you've come to the best decision. That's sometimes the only way through that fight is to go through the fight and just make sure that it never gets personal, that it never gets heated, that it's literally just about this one decision.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to have that little bit of headbutting going on, or else you get the George Lucas effect.
Yeah.
You know, where people are just like, oh, yeah, everything he says is brilliant, and suddenly Jar Jar Binks.
I mean, and again, I think that comes with surrounding yourself with the right people to where it doesn't become... Because I've had bad experiences in the past where it become battles of ego. And as opposed to something like, I think iBlade and Chris and I, whereas it's like we're both interested in making the best product we can.
Exactly.
So sometimes we're gonna fight over what we think that is, but it's not it's not a pissing contest. So
no, it's never about, oh, I want my footprint all over this more. No, my influence is going to be felt more. It's never anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, for some people it is, and that's when it sucks to work on that crew. So
yeah, no, you're absolutely 100% right. So you started out, like, I'm going to go back a little bit to your college life. You started out working in game design, but then transferred over to film. Is that right?
No, I was always film.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I guess I must have misheard. Then, so, like,
from the game time I wanted to do, before I went to college, I wanted to do game design. Okay. And then I decided... After I was going to the Army, I decided I actually wanted to do movies instead because I got a camcorder for Christmas. My family never owned one growing up. And so I finally got one, started making my own little horror shorts and stuff, and realized that's what I wanted to do. So, yeah.
Ah, gotcha. Mm-hmm. So then do you do stuff outside of Rooster Teeth?
Did I do what? Sorry?
Do you, like, film little things outside of Rooster Teeth?
I write a lot outside Rooster Teeth. So, like, my end game is... I want to write and direct Hollywood movies. You know, I mean, who doesn't, I guess. But so that's what I'm always working toward. In my experience, I mean, so I've only been with Rooster Teeth about 10 months since last September, which has been great it's been a great opportunity, and I love being there. But it was a thing I was able to come into with a lot of experience from the other stuff. So it wasn't, there's a lot of people, there's multiple, there's no one right to pursue the career you want. And so there are, there's like Rooster Teeth people who came in as interns, and they worked their way up that way and kind of came up from, to that to become writers and whatnot. And I was more I was the guy who bartended late nights, and I was a valet manager downtown forever. And on the side of that, I was always writing. I was entering script contests. I think it's on the Game Time, but I have a fantastic mentor who's a screenwriter, and so I get to go to LA a lot and mingle with those people and get really good, honest feedback on my work.
Right. But no matter what you were having to do to pay the bills, you were always pursuing in the background.
Right. And that's why, as modest as I can be, that's why my writing is at the level it's at. Like, it's because I worked hard at it. And like, that's that difference where people say, oh, like, you're so talented. And it's like, no, I'd rather be known for, being skilled.
It's interesting to see the difference in people who were hired, say, just out of college, because that came up a couple of times on set when it would be, oh, we're going 16 hours, and that's just what we do to get the thing done. Yeah. And then you have the other people who have been working in the business for a long time going, well, no, you stop after 12 and you give a little bit of break, and there are protocol that you do to make sure that tomorrow you can do the exact same thing, and the day after that, and the day after that. Right. And it's interesting to see the kind of different work ethics, because it's not that one is worse than the other or lazier or bad or anything like that. It's just that student drive of, I'm going to go and just drink espressos and not worry about it and not eat and, do whatever I need to do to finish the project, versus a job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's kind of interesting to note the difference. Have you noticed that? And we'll wait until Skype catches up. Yeah, it's okay. Go on.
Okay, cool. We talked a little bit about like how to talk to crew and stuff like that, and that's to me one of those things where the hope is that when you do big projects, something like iBlade, for example, where you're shooting for basically a week straight. Obviously, that pales in comparison to a several month feature, but at Rooster Teeth, like a week long shoot's pretty intense. It's about building that camaraderie so that even people who are more used to a structured thing, hopefully will be willing to go a little farther. Rooster Teeth still deals with, we're not making a $200 million Transformers movie. I mean, all of our things, have a bit smaller budgets than some things, and we have to make things work within those budgets and hopefully look like they cost 10 times more.
Yeah, really.
So it's just about, the hope is that you get people on board. But yeah, they're definitely very structured work days versus people who will just like work all night if you ask them to. So
yeah, but at the end of the day, as long as the work environment is still fun, as long as people are still enjoying what they're making, then yes, they're just going to keep going until you say go home. Because what we do is work.
Yeah.
I mean, let's bottom line it. It's not the real deal. We go in and make fun things that get edited by other people while you go off and make other fun things, and then they just come out and you don't ever have to put your fingers on them again, and people love them, and they come up and give you adoration and praise for the work that you did for a week of very, very intensive work. But a week.
Wait, who are you referring to in that example?
Half you, half me. The week was me. The everything before that was you, because you obviously put in a lot more than just 1 week's work, but you don't edit it. You don't necessarily.
I am editing on this. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm wrong in that aspect.
Than anyone else, because I did a couple drafts of the treatment, and then I did several drafts of the scripts, and then obviously directed it. And there's, the pre-production takes a while. You're casting, you're designing all the props, you're doing all that stuff, and now we're in post. So, yeah, in some various blocks, I've been working on it since, I think April is when I started writing it.
Wow.
So, but we did Immersion and some other things in between. So.
Right. Yeah. That's
Those are a good example of something where I'm like, I check in and then I check out. Like I filmed on the Mario Kart one.
Oh, yeah.
And then I filmed on, I think that's maybe where I met you. Were you at?
It was.
Yeah.
Because I worked on the Fruit Ninja one before that, but that was the first one that I had ever gotten the opportunity.
Yeah. So I worked on Mario Kart for a day. I worked on the motorcycle immersion for a day. And then, and I edited one small scene, no, 2 scenes of that one. I edited the beginning where they talk to Jack, and he has the fire extinguisher, and then I talk very end where they say goodbye. But otherwise, I barely touch those. So those are very you come in, you work, you crew basically, and then
the immersion shoots were always fun because they just jammed down so hard in such a short period of time that you don't have time to worry about anything. You don't have time to second guess anything or be like, can we do it better? You just do it the way it is.
Yeah, and I mean, there's things you don't have to worry so much on those. You're not worrying about. Those are more film-wise. They're more coverage. They're almost more documentary.
That's very true. Because it's kind of MythBuster style.
Yeah.
It's absolutely very presentational. You have to make sure that everyone knows it's not a trick.
Yeah.
That you're putting forth a good faith, honest effort to present the most scientific way possible to hurt 2 idiots around the office.
And it's pretty fun to watch, Michael, the go-kart.
That was probably the best freaking thing that happened that day, because he was like, I'm just going to keep doing it. Until somebody tells me not to do it anymore, I'm just going to keep doing that.
Yeah.
And I was like, you go for it, man. I don't care. We'll keep fixing the go-kart as much as you damn well please. Who am I to stop a brilliance?
Yeah.
You know, that slow-mo shot that came out of it was amazing.
There were also some problems with that go-kart, excuse me, too. I mean, like the band kept snapping, and then I think at one point it could only turn left or something. Like,
oh my God,
I mean,
we
Aaron
had
did
so many problems with that
together,
thing.
but it was definitely a lot of maintenance on that vehicle done that you don't see on screen.
Well, listen, I distinctly remember having to go get, I think it was like 3 stores worth of belts for that freaking go-kart because they were a very specific size and only a couple of stores had them. And I ended up buying out 3 stores and also the road flares for the motorcycle, for the Trials Fusion one.
Mm-hmm.
I also bought out a couple of stores worth of road flares.
Nice. Which melted that thing in the end, if you remember. Which is not. I wish that was in the episode, but it's not.
I really wish it was in the episode.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It'll probably be on a DVD somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything about what happened because it's probably going to be on a DVD somewhere. And I'll talk about it because that was a very, very fun story. Because I told him. I was like, white phosphorus doesn't get put out by a fire extinguisher. Anyway.
Say what happened. I think you're good. It was funny.
Well,
I'll say it. At the end of the trials thing, there's the finish line with the flares, and those flares burned down to the point where they actually caught the goal on fire, and the entire thing just melted and snapped, which was ridiculous to watch.
And it was very like expected and yet totally unexpected to everyone who didn't realize what was going to happen.
Yeah, but then we did get some really funny footage of Burnie just standing in front of it, like, well, okay.
Cool man with his sunglasses.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love set stories. Those are so much fun because it's always just semi-ridiculous, semi-dangerous. You know, I mean, like, there was an episode of Dirty Jobs. I don't know if you watched that show, but I love Mike Rowe and his perfect voice. He has the best voice. And he did an episode called Safety Third, where they talk about a lot of the times on production, you worry about getting the shot, you worry about getting out of there in mostly one piece, and then the actual safety components of everything come next. I mean, they're on the list.
Right.
But you really got to get the shot.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can come with a black eye to somebody, you know? I mean, sometimes it can come with a couple scrapes and cuts and bruises and dangerous positioning of an audio guy standing over. It's fun. But, I mean, that's what you do. And those are the stories that become very fun later on, which you're actually able to tell the whole thing without getting yelled at again.
Yeah. There's some funny stuff. We're definitely doing a good blooper reel for iBlade. There's some funny things that happened when we were there. Like, there's some, especially there's maybe some sword fighting in there. And there's some pretty good mishaps.
Just so to whet a few appetites who have been teased this whole time, do we have any sort of release date on iBlade or Day 5? I don't know if it's been said. I'm purely asking.
No, I think they said at RCX. So I think you were saying. I don't think there's a date. I can say iBlade is late August, and it's a 3-parter. So I believe they're coming out once a week for 3 weeks. Nice. They might be 2 weeks apart. I want to say it's 3 in a row once a week. And then I believe Day 5 is targeted for October. So yeah. So we're
excellent. Excellent. Well, I know you have to go soon.
I do.
So I'm going to go ahead and speed along this part of the process.
Okay.
We're coming to the end of our program, and I've always enjoyed the Inside the Actor Studios method of ending on a questionnaire, so I too have a reappropriated version of the Proust Personality Questionnaire, and it goes a little something like this. Josh, what's your favorite word?
My favorite word? Epitome.
That is certainly a good word to have. It's sitting up there at the top.
Yes.
What is your least favorite word?
Ooh. It's a terrible word. Man.
No, there's just so many to choose from.
Yeah. Oh, man. I'm trying to look around for inspiration. It's a terrible word that people use.
Wall, door, ceiling, paint.
I love lamp.
Lamp.
Man. That's a terrible word. It's a waste of space most of the time. So
Fair enough.
yeah.
What sound or noise do you love?
Sound and noise. Man, these are tough. These are like deep. I guess you're supposed to do these.
Oh, weird.
It's probably the.
No, it's all gravy. I mean, it's interesting to kind of see how people think. That's the purpose of this. So if you need to, talk it out.
Okay, so favorite sound.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think of, you know, like relaxing sounds are always nice, like waterfalls and stuff, but that seems like it seems boring. So,
But boring is nice when you live an exciting life. Sometimes you just need a second to slow down.
yes, I'm not base jumping off mountains, but yes. The
Hey, it sounded good,
what's
okay?
that cat that is it a panther that makes that really cool noise?
Oh yeah, the panther who kind of like calls into the ground and yeah.
That's what panther screech.
And what sound or noise do you hate?
There's easy ones, you know, crying babies and such. Yeah, the only thing I can think of is recently they've been doing construction on, I believe, every single apartment around mine. So like hammering in another apartment
just everyone around you simultaneously.
Well, no, they moved slowly around somehow because I thought the construction would be done, and then it was here, and then it was. I mean, it was really. I'm pretty sure if I went and asked, it was every apartment in my immediate vicinity.
That's freaking
so
great.
That's my recent noise that's been driving me nuts.
What hero or heroine, no judgment here, do you identify with the most?
Ooh. I'm staring at a picture of my poster of Big Trouble in Little China, so I'm teetering on saying that.
Yeah.
Let's see. What poster do I have? Yeah, I think everyone wants to be Han Solo, so maybe Han Solo. I wish I was as suave as that.
Yeah. Well, I don't envy him right now. He's suffering from a broken leg.
Yeah.
We hope he gets soon.
I think in that vein,
Get well soon, Harrison.
I think John McClane would be the guy you like, because he's the everyday man in an extraordinary situation, and he.
That's still one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time.
I love that. Yeah, me too.
Yeah. What villain or villainess
do I relate to?
Mm-hmm.
This is maybe cliche, but I really like the Joker, and I think the reason is there are just times when. I don't know how to say this without sounding too dark, but like sometimes you just kind of wish things were like there was more chaos out there because like
sometimes things were a little bit more random.
Yeah, just sometimes you run into things and like there's if the world that maybe it's a U.S. thing and maybe it's having been in Iraq, and sometimes like things feel almost too peaceful, and you end up something like they call the first world problems, and you're like, oh yeah, you're like, man, maybe we just need some chaos over here. Not that I'm advocating for crazy violence.
Not that you're gonna go burn a whole stack of money or anything, but yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. It kind of lulls you into that false sense of security, and then you realize that it's false, and you kind of get that heightened state of awareness that comes from being in situations where being complacent gets you killed.
Yeah.
And you sort of fall back on those old habits. Whereas when you have something that constantly keeps you sharp, constantly keeps you going, it's just sort of easier to progress to that next thing.
Yeah, and that's true in filmmaking even too. It's like you want to surround yourself with people who, not by yes men, but by people who constantly challenge your work and ultimately make you better at what you do. So.
Yeah. So if you had a choice, what would be your superpower?
I think everyone wants to fly, so that either fly or I love scuba diving. So if I could breathe underwater, I would take that as well.
And what would be your super weakness?
Well, I can tell you in real life, my superpower is that I can repel the cold. So like I always run around in shorts in the winter and no one understands why. They're like, "Why are you wearing shorts?" It's like, and, it doesn't get so cold in Texas, but it's cold enough where
Right.
people are wearing coats and multiple layers and I'm in like shorts and a t-shirt. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Like I just
And now you don't have that natural Canadian resistance or anything. I mean, you're from
I'm from
Texas, right?
Texas, yeah. And I mean, I'm kind
Yeah.
of hairy, so that might be part of it,
Right.
but
Right. You just have the woolly gene.
yeah. And so but then if I get wet and cold, it breaks. Like it breaks my power. So that's
Right.
probably it. It'd probably be like the aliens in Signs, which wouldn't make sense with my hold my breath underwater power. But there you go.
But no, I know exactly. Well, then you just get back in the water and you're no longer cold because the water's not as
Yeah,
cold.
so
Well,
I
unless
could
you're
hold my
in,
breath
I don't know.
forever in water 70 degrees or above. It's a very niche power.
I like it. I like it. You're the hero of the tropics.
Yes.
So what turns you on creatively? What gets you going? What gets your wheels turning?
Oh man. I think just seeing not just movies, but like experiencing a really great story or a really great entertainment experience. Because
Right.
it's so rare that you go to a movie and you walk out just blown away. And the same with a
That's
video
very true.
game or a book. I mean, like you get these few, and it's been a while actually since I've seen a movie that really blew me away. But when that happens, it's so like, oh man, like I want to make a movie like that. Like you find these things that
Yeah.
make you like inspire you to want to be as good as that. And I always leave the theater with like a jolt of like, oh yeah, I got to get home and write right now because I need to make a movie that makes people scream or whatever.
And what turns you off?
um, hmm, creatively. I don't know. I get fatigued sometimes on projects, so I know that like sometimes not when you're not taking a break or you're not working on different stuff, and I get tunnel vision, and then it just kind of like I think every project hits a point where you lose a little motivation. So it's good to have people around you who when your motivation's down, theirs is up, and that way it can
Right.
spin.
Yeah, that's true. You're able to kind of support each other as a team is supposed to do, and that helps the camaraderie aspect that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything that just is like just shuts me down. I think just not. And I find that when I'm not like when I'm writing, I try and read a lot at the same time. So I'm trying to like kind of do things that are congruent. And when I'm not
Right.
doing that, I find my process isn't near.
I'd say
Picking
that's
myself
fair.
up too much is
Yeah.
not so great.
Yeah. Ugh, excuse me. So what other talent, other than the ones you've obviously been gifted with, would you like to have?
What I like to have. Do you know the thing I absolutely cannot do is sing or play music. I think I could maybe learn to play music, but I definitely can't sing. It's awful. So I think I would take one of those, if only to get women. Yep.
It always helps to have that silky, smooth bass voice.
Yeah.
Hey, baby, you want to come back to my... Yeah, huh? I know exactly what you mean.
Yep.
So what advice would you give to your 13-year-old self?
What was I doing when I was 13? I was playing 64 GoldenEye. Keep winning at GoldenEye. And
Stay humble.
stay humble. Double major in English in college. I wish I had done that. I seriously do.
Yeah? Just for the writing aspect?
Yeah, for the right. I focused on writing very late in college, and so I didn't. There
I
aren't
see.
very many screenwriting classes at UT. When I took it, there was only 2. So now there's a bunch more. But I would have really liked to focus on because that's something else you learn when you start working on story and structure and all that stuff. All the same skills you use to write a good screenplay are used in a good paper. And so I used to write terrible papers because I was stuck in that like 3, like thesis, 1, 2, 3 paragraphs, conclusion, and they were boring as hell and whatever.
Yeah.
And then once I finally figured out that the screenplay stuff was adaptable, I started just acing all my papers because it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like you can write whatever structure you want so long as you pull someone through an engaging read,
Right.
You can break rules, you can break grammar, you can do all kinds of stuff as long as you've got them,
But you've got to learn the rules before you can know how to break
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I was saying.
No, I'd say that's completely fair. So what is something that only you do?
Use combs as back scratchers.
I love it. Do you even like tie it to a stick so it's extra long?
No,
Or you just have the long comb?
I have them strategically placed around my house, so there's never one very far. And so people that know me and they come over, they're just like, you're just sitting there scratching myself with a comb. And like,
That's fantastic. So you are extremely hairy is what you're saying.
Do what?
So you are extremely hairy is what you're saying if you have to use a comb to get through it.
No, I learned this a couple years ago too, because I thought, I mean, I'm reasonably hairy, but it's partitioned, it's in sections, and I realized I have identical body hair to like 70s era Burt Reynolds. And I was like, I'll take it. Like, I'll take that.
I see.
Yeah. So
have you ever thought about having a portrait above your fireplace that's a recreation of the Burt Reynolds
of the Burt Reynolds on the bearskin? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
I have. I gave a whole speech once to a group about how I was happy that our body hair was the same. And mid-speech, I slapped that picture up on the board. So
Photoshop is a wonderful thing. That's all I'm saying. Photoshop is a wonderful thing. So what's your favorite curse word?
Oh, man.
Throwing in a fun question with all these toughies out of the
We
way.
allowed to curse on your show?
You damn Skippy.
Okay. I mean, I think...
We haven't very much, but, you know.
I think fuck is the most fun word, but it has to be used right. I'm thinking in terms of, like, writing. You can't, it's easy to oversaturate fuck, but if you drop it in the right place, it's like, it on its own is just insanely funny. So, yeah.
It's true. Yeah. I agree. That's my favorite one as well. And it's always interesting to hear other people's reasons why. So where would you one day like to live?
Ooh. I think living on I think living somewhere tropical would be amazing, even though you're so disconnected from the world. But you could totally see how walking, like, that'd be such an amazing place to be a writer or something, especially, even though you'd be disconnected from things that would probably be making you a better writer. But just getting up and sitting on a porch with, turquoise water on the beach.
Yeah,
right.
nothing but the view.
Yeah, people
are
out here. So yeah, probably at least, a beach house, assuming I make my millions. So we'll see.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. You'll have a beach house, and then you'll have a mountain house for the winter.
Yeah, I would totally take a mountain house too. So,
nice. Whichever one they decide to give you once you break into A-list celebrity, I think they just give you a mansion. Isn't that right? Yeah, I need to have my guy check on that. So, if our last question here, if you had a choice, how long would it take you to respawn after you died?
You don't want to get hit by whatever killed you the first time, probably. Are we respawning in the same place?
Those rules are up to you. I only frame the question.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's why these are fun. I just get to let it go and whatever you come up with.
I think I wouldn't mind instantly respawning if I wasn't respawning exactly where I just died. Like if I was respawning back at my house, unless it was my house where I died.
Right.
But if not, then I would give it a good,
Unless some a-holes camping your respawn point.
Yeah. Maybe like a good 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Not too long, because if there are other people in peril, you definitely want to get back in the fight. So.
I see.
Yeah.
I see
so
what you mean.
I think 5 seconds in the same location is probably ideal.
Fair enough. Well, you have passed the gauntlet, and we have come to the end of our show. So let's give the people a chance to find you. Where can they find you on the interwebs?
They can find, like, what's my search history?
Yeah, where's your Twitter? What's your RT site handle, Facebook?
Oh, good. So I was going to say, I go to some dark sites. My 6 Romeo, SIXROMEO. So that's my Twitter handle at 6 Romeo. It's also my Rooster Teeth name as well. And that's not a great lover,
yeah,
insinuation. It's my army call sign is what it is. So Yeah.
Military,
Yes.
not 11.
Yes, exactly.
And that his name 6 Romeo has been underneath him the whole time. You'll find links to the Twitter and Rooster Teeth accounts in the description below. Is there anything else you want to plug before we get out of here?
I
We've
think
already
I'm on the
mentioned the
RT
release dates
recap
for
today. Go see that.
Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah, go watch the RT recap. That's always fun. I love that Blake's got to take over those and is doing just such an incredible job with them.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. So, with that, my name is Tim Leftwich. You've been watching this on youtube.com/Tim Leftwich. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. The audio version to this episode, as well as all of the other episodes, are on soundcloud.com/Tim Leftwich. And as always, we'll see you next time.